All right, well, hidey-ho, good neighbors. This is the Common Constitutionalist once again coming to you with the Common Constitutionalist weekly podcast. And what a week it's been. You know, with the whole Paris climate thing and Trump pulling out and the world's going to end and oh, boo-hoo. So that's what we're going to discuss today. I'm going to discuss that topic and that topic only today on the Common Constitutionalist.
You are listening to the Common Constitutionalist, broadcasting from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment black helicopters.
All right, so as I said in the opening, the Paris climate hoax has been front page news for the last few days. Now, I've written twice about the topic, 2 days running, I think. So why not begin the week with the fun and entertaining topic of the Paris climate hoax and global warming? So the left has gone predictably bat crap crazy over Trump's decision to pull out of the Paris climate deal. And gee, I wonder why that is. Could it just be that they care so deeply about Mother Earth? Yeah, I'm sure that's what it is, right? And they certainly care more than we do, so, naturally. But no, that's not it. It's the same reason they go bonkers when a Republican, when a conservative even hints at government spending, at cutting government spending, Apparently the Earth, like socialist Democrats, can't do without one dime less. It's all about the money, and it's always been about the money. Oh, and the fact that we have too much of the world's money, of course. And that's just not fair. After all, we did build this country on the backs of the rest of the world. Not just the Indians, but the rest of the world. And they want it back. They want, I guess, reparations, for want of a better term. Now, we all know, as it always happens, that they claim to want to fight global warming and they claim to want to help the third world out. But we also know, historically, which is what's going to happen this time, if it ever goes through, that the money never gets to where it's going. It always gets siphoned off by governments, or the government siphons it off and gives it to their crony corporate buddies to build these nonsensical wind farms and this solar crap and everything else that doesn't work with a lick, but everybody gets rich doing it. And the fact is that if global warming could be solved without one dime, without any cash, the left wouldn't give a rip about global warming. It's that simple, and that is a fact. So yesterday I posted an article, which at the end of it I said that I'd speak about the climate denier, Dr. Nils-Axel Mörner. And so, because I'm a man of my word, and sometimes too many words, obviously, that I'm going to do just that, I guess. But first, I want to set this thing up. In 2016, Climate Central posted an article about a new study that reveals the acceleration of this rise of the sea levels, don't you know? They went on about scientists tracking sea level rise, and then they post this map of the U.S., which shows these orange dots around the U.S., and they describe it as it's a map of unnatural flooding due to sea levels rising. And so, in other words, flooding due to man-caused global warming. Of course, it's man-caused. Otherwise, it wouldn't be published if it was just regular old flooding. And how do we know it was man-caused? Because they say so. But there's no way to know. We don't know. They don't know. Nobody really knows what's causing flooding, if there is any flooding or if there is any sea level rise. We'll get to that in a little bit. But it doesn't matter, because you're not supposed to question warming scientists, okay? Because if you do question it, then they just say denier. Just like if you question black-on-black crime in Chicago or something, you're a racist. And that's their go-to thing. You're just a climate denier. And they just keep repeating until you shut up and go away. That's the only argument they've got. Evidently, I guess, at least according to the many Nimrods I've seen on the tele recently, sea level rise seems to be the thing they think they can hammer, I guess. I mean, there haven't been any hurricanes to speak of. The droughts are all taken care of, as far as I know. And I don't know whatever happened to the ozone hole. Remember the ozone hole scare? Whatever happened to the ozone hole? I don't know. I think it just disappeared on its own. Fancy that. But the point is, I guess they have to keep coming up with some catastrophe that's right around the corner. The apocalypse has to always be right around the corner if we don't act. And by acting means give us all your money. That's what acting is, basically. But the sea level rise thing, it's been brewing for a while, but it's really come to a head now. And I think probably now that Trump has taken us off of the climate treaty nonsense, it may be because a lot of wealthy and influential folk live on the various coasts. And so you don't want your mansion to float away. So call your congressman, call your senator, and demand the reinstatement of the Paris Wealth Distribution Treaty. It's not a climate treaty. That's exactly what it is. It's the Paris Wealth Distribution Treaty. That's what they should call it, because that's what it is. So anyway, let's get back to this map thing with the orange dots on it. So with all the world-ending rhetoric about sea level rising, one would expect when they look at this map, you would see orange dots over every inch of the map, every inch of the coastal U.S. That's where you should see all these orange dots because the sea levels are rising like 50 feet. Right? That's ridiculous, but you know what I mean. Looking at this map, there's only like 20 dots on it. And the entire West Coast only has 3 dots. There's 2 in California and 1 in Washington State. None in Oregon. One's in like Southern California, one's near San Francisco, and one's in like Seattle. And that's it for the entire West Coast. That's the catastrophic flooding that we've seen, evidently. Now, I've spent a lot of time in Texas. There's 2 dots in Texas, little bitty dots in Texas. And there's like 2 maybe a couple 3 in Florida. That's it. With all the coastline in Texas and Florida, there's 2 or 3 dots. That's it. Now, I've spent a lot of time on beaches in both North and South Carolina, and I can tell you there's a lot of low-lying land there, the Outer Banks and whatnot. And between those 2 states, again, there's only 2 dots. That's it. You would expect like I said, you would expect these dots to be riddled all over the coast. But no, I don't even know why they put it on here, because it's supposed to promote sea level rising, and it just looks ridiculous. But all this crap is due to, we've heard it 1,000 times, computer modeling, or garbage in, garbage out, whichever you want to classify it is. The garbage in, garbage out is probably a little more accurate than computer modeling. So I've been running on here for quite a while. I'm going to take a quick break, be right back with the fun and frivolity of sea level rising and global warming. Yay. You're listening to me, the Common Constitutionalist.
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
All right, so welcome back, by the way. Now, these, as far as computer modeling, basically here's what happens. Well, one of the things that happen, all right, that happens. These supposed scientists, they find a couple of weather anomalies in the past and whatnot, and then they plug these into the computer, and this becomes some sort of bogus baseline, all right? So everything out after that is just crapola, because these are just anomalies. They're one-time deals. They plug them in as if it's supposed to be a norm, because that's what they want it to look like, and then it suddenly becomes some sort of bogus baseline. And then they just extend it out to further years, to further catastrophic apocalyptic scenarios. And then in the article with this map, Climate Central, which is one of these lefty, radical, whack job websites, says that the scientists then show the amount of land that could be inundated in the coming years, and will depend heavily on whether humanity succeeds in slashing pollution from burning fuel, deforestation, and farming. Oh, and the redistribution of trillions of dollars, but they forgot to mention that little point. So in the Climate Central article, they also claim that, quote, the Paris Agreement negotiated in December, this was before December in 2016, Quote, the Paris Agreement aims to do just that, with nations agreeing to take voluntary steps to reduce the amount of pollution they release after 2020. It could take decades. Now listen, it could take decades, though, before the untested approach is revealed to have been a success, a failure, or something in between. Of course it could, because we wouldn't want to be accountable for any of the bullcrap we're filling you full of right now. It could take decades. It's always decades. It's always, you listen to Al Gore, you listen to any of these other Nimrods, and they will always talk about catastrophe, not a year from now, not 5 years from now, but 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years, or by 2100, so they can't be accountable for all their crapola. That's the key. You look at it, listen to it, watch it. It's always the same crap. They're always 20, 30 years out. At least they admit that it may not even be a success. It could be a success or a failure or something in between. After we redistribute gazillions of dollars for nothing. But then, of course, they'll come back and say, but we have to do something. The earth is warming. We have to do something. You can't just sit back and watch it warm. You have to do something. No, we don't have to do something, because you haven't proven anything, you boneheads. All right, now here's another quite revealing little tidbit from the Climate Central article. Even if humans quickly stopped polluting the atmosphere, potentially keeping a global temperature rise to below 2 degrees Celsius, which is 3.8 degrees Fahrenheit, compared with pre-industrial times, a major goal of the Paris Climate Agreement, seas may still rise an additional 9 inches to 2 feet this century, the study concluded. That would trigger serious flooding in some areas and worsen in others. So even if we stop polluting today or tomorrow, it ain't going to make any difference. We're still going to get washed away. Well, what's the point then? But again, don't question the experts. They continued the nonsense. Under the worst case scenario investigated, which is the only thing they will ever investigate, is a worst case hypothetical that will never come true. Or if it does come true, it will come through naturally like it has for eons. If pollution continues unabated, and if seas respond to ongoing warming by rising at the fastest rates considered likely, which is another if, sea levels could rise more than 4 feet this century alone, wiping out coastal infrastructure and driving communities inland. Remember all you rich people living in Miami Beach and living on the coast of California and at Trump's Palm Beach resorts. They're all going to be underwater, so make sure you call your politician and get them to reinstate the agreement. Give us some more money. So, as promised, enter Dr. Mörner. Now, the UK Telegraph, this is a lefty rag. How in heaven's name did this get by the editors? I'll never know. But the UK Telegraph writes that, quote, if there is one scientist who knows more about sea levels than anyone else in the world, it is the Swedish geologist and physicist, Nils-Axel Mörner, formerly chairman of the International Commission on Sea Level Change. I didn't even know there was such a thing, but I guess there is. An uncompromising verdict of Dr. Mörner, who for 35 years has been using every known scientific method to study sea levels all over the globe, is that all this talk about sea level rising is nothing but a colossal scare story. Got it? He, Mörner, says that despite fluctuations down as well as up, the sea is not rising, he says. It hasn't risen in 50 years. If there is any rise this century, it will be not more than 10 centimeters, which is about 4 inches, with an uncertainty of plus or minus 10 centimeters, or 4 inches. In other words, a zip, a zero, nada. And once again, I just noticed I've been drooning on forever. So I'm going to take another quick break, and we'll be back to wrap this beauty up. See ya.
You're listening to The Common Constitutionalist. Let the truth be known.
Okay, I'm back. Did you miss me? No? Okay, well, I'm back anyway, so too bad. So the reason why Mörner is so certain that these claims about sea level rise are 100% wrong is that they're all based on computer model predictions, whereas his findings are based on, he says, quote, going into the field to observe what is actually happening in the real world, unquote. I like this guy. And this is so typical of these crooks, criminals, liars dressed up as scientists. So one of Mörner's most shocking discoveries was the IPCC, the International Panel on Climate Change or something, the UN nonsense. They've been able to show a sea level rising of about 2.3 millimeters a year for a couple of decades, I think. He says that until 2003, the UN's own satellite-based evidence showed no upward trend. But then suddenly, by some miraculous event, the graph tilted upward, well, because the IPCC's favored experts had drawn on the finding of a single tide gauge in Hong Kong Harbor that showed a 2.3 millimeter rise. The entire global sea level projection was then adjusted upwards by a corrective factor of, yes, you guessed it, 2.3 millimeters every year, because the IPCC scientists admitted they had to show a trend. Here's your data, here's your rock solid data. They just made it up. They took one anomaly and they plugged it in the computer, and that's your baseline. And now it's whether it's rising, falling, it doesn't make any difference. It's 2.3 millimeters minimum per year, every year for decades, and that's your freaking data. This is what everybody's claiming is true. Another little fun fact that the good doctor discovered was not one of the 22 IPCC quote-unquote sea level experts was an actual sea level expert. Yet Mörner says the results of this deliberate ignorance and reliance on rigged computer models have become the most powerful single driver of the entire warmist movement hysteria. And it goes on and on and on. Things like the NOAA eliminating the medieval warming period because they just wiped it out from history because it was inconvenient. Talk about an inconvenient truth. The medieval warming period, if you look on graphs and whatnot, they never show it. It's just gone. NOAA's adjusted other data to fit other warming models. Remember the East Anglia fraud emails? That was a big to-do, and then it just kind of went away into the ether. I wonder why. Both NASA and NOAA have wiped out Arctic sea ice data prior to 1979 because, again, it was inconvenient. And that way, from 1979 on, they can show that the Arctic sea ice has gotten a little less and a little less. Well, it hasn't really, but they've adjusted it down accordingly. But before then, back in the 1940s and before then, there were warming periods where the sea ice was thinner then than it is now. But they can't show that because it doesn't fit the narrative. And the whole 1940s warming period, it's gone. Try to find it on any graph, on any table. It's just missing. It's like it's never existed. It's completely ridiculous. So, and the list of scams is almost endless. It's practically endless. But yet people believe this crap. They believe what they hear. They believe what they read. And all this crap is rigged. It's a rigged game. It always has been. And all it's about is follow the freaking money. That's all you got to do is follow the money. These people are getting vastly wealthy. Governments are siphoning off billions and billions of dollars, and they're putting it in the pockets of their crony buddies, and windmills and solar panels and geothermal and algae and every other stupid, I almost said whatever scheme. It just ticks me the crap off. How much better would we be Heck, how much better would the third world be if they actually had real engineering going on for water and lights and power and the mosquito problem with DD? I mean, it all ties in. It's just all such a load of crap. And at the end of this article, Mörner basically says that the global warming hysteria, the sea level rise, is the greatest lie ever told. That pretty much sums it up. So this is the common constitutionalist. Boy, am I just... This is a real pet peeve of mine. This ticks me off almost more than anything else. It is just such a scam and a hoax, and it's plain as day. All you got to do is look at some of the data that has been fudged, has disappeared from history, changed in so many ways. Numbers change, graphs change, tables change. It's all such a load of crap. It's unbelievable. Yet they've gotten away with it for so many years. Thank heavens President Trump didn't wise up. I guess he's been this way for a while. Certainly on the campaign trail, that he said he was getting out of the Paris Agreement. And stay out of the Paris Agreement. Get rid of all the climate change crap. Bleed the UN. Just stop giving money to the UN IPCC nonsense. Just get rid of it all. If you people the rest of the world wants to flounder about with global warming, you be my guest, but leave us the heck alone. That's all I got, dagnabbit. This is the Common Constitutionalist signing off. Y'all have a great balance of the weekend. We'll talk to you next week unless I hemorrhage. That's it. See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Common Constitutionalist Weekly Podcast.